Hi there. Welcome to Scheherazade's Sanctuary. I'm your host, Scheherazade, and I would like to start our journey together with a question. What is the greatest love story ever told? Well, in the West, we know the tale of the famed lovers Romeo and Juliet. But today, I would like to introduce you to a love story for the ages. This story is as sweet as it is tragic. A story of great love, deep passion, and perhaps even one of caution. I speak to you of none other than the lovers of great renown, Layla and Majnun. Now, close your eyes, relax, and let us begin. Once there lived among the Bedouin in Arabia a great Sayyid who ruled over the Banu Amir. No other country flourished like his, and Zephyr carried the sweet scent of his glory to the farthest horizons. Success and merit made him a sultan of the Arabs, and his wealth equaled that of Korah. He had a kind heart for the poor, and for them his purse was always open. To strangers he was a generous host, and in all his enterprises he succeeded as if good luck were part of him. As the stone is part of the fruit, or so it appeared to be. Yet, though respected like a caliph, to he himself he seemed like a candle, slowly consuming itself without ever quite enough light. The heart of this man was eaten by one secret sorrow. He who otherwise possessed everything he desired had no son. He had remained childless. What did glory, power, and wealth mean to him if one day they would slip from his hands without an heir to receive them? Was the corn fated to wither? Did the branch have to die? If the cypress tree fell, where would the pheasant build his nest? Where would he find happiness? Where shade and refuge? He only is truly alive who in his son's memory survives his own death. Thus, the nobleman brooded, and the older he grew, the greater became his desire. Yet for many years his alms and prayers were in vain. The full moon which he so eagerly awaited never rose in his sky, and the jasmine seed which he sowed would not germinate. Still, the Sayyid was not content to bow his head to fate. For the sake of one wish yet unfulfilled, he thought but little of everything else that heaven had granted him. That is how humans are made. If prayers remain unanswered, do we ever reflect that maybe it be for our good? We feel sure that we know our needs, yet the future is veiled from our eyes. The thread of our fate ends outside the visible world, and what today we mistake for a padlock keeping us out, we may tomorrow find to be the key that let us in. Much, of course, can happen in the meantime. Our hero desired the jewel he did not possess. As the oyster nourishes the pearl, so he prayed and clamored until in the end God fulfilled his wish. He was granted a boy who looked like the smile of a pomegranate, like a rose whose petals have opened overnight, like a diamond which transforms the darkness of the world into sheer light. Delighted, the happy father opened wide the doors of his treasury. Everyone was to share his happiness, and the great event was celebrated with shouts of joy and words of blessing. The child was committed to the care of a nurse, so that under her watchful eye he should grow big and strong. So he did, and every drop of milk he drank was turned in his body into a token of faithfulness. Every bite he ate became in his heart a morsel of tenderness. Each line of indigo drawn on his face to protect him against the evil eye worked magic on his soul. All this, however, remained a secret, hidden from every eye. 2 weeks after his birth, the child already looked like the moon after 14 days, and his parents gave him the name of Chayes. A year went by, and the boy's beauty grew to perfection. As a ray of light penetrates the water, so the jewel of love shone through the veil of his body. Playful and joyful, he grew year by year, a carefully protected flower in the happy garden of childhood. When he was 7 years old, the violet-colored down of his first beard began to shimmer on his tulip cheeks, and when he had reached his first decennium, people told the story of his beauty like a fairy tale. Whoever saw him, if only from afar, called upon the heavens to bless him. Now, the father sent the boy to school. He entrusted him to a learned man to whom distinguished Arabs took their children, so that he should teach them everything of use in this world. Instead of playing, they were now to study in earnest, and if they went a little in fear of the strict master, there was no harm in that. Soon, Chayes was one of the best pupils. He easily mastered the arts of reading and writing, and when he talked, it was as if his tongue was scattering pearls. It was a delight to listen to him. But then, something happened which no one had foreseen. Listen. Among his fellow pupils were girls. Just like the boys, they came from noble families of various tribes. One day, a beautiful little girl joined the group, a jewel such as one seldom but sees. She was as slender as a cypress tree. Her eyes, like those of a gazelle, could have pierced 1,000 hearts with a single unexpected glance. Yes, with one flicker of her eyelashes, she could have slain the whole world. To look at, she was like an Arabian moon. Yet, when it came to stealing hearts, she was a Persian page. Under the dark shadow of her hair, her face was a lamp, or rather a torch, with ravens weaving their wings around it. And who would have thought that such overwhelming sweetness could flow from so small a mouth? It is possible, then, to break whole armies with 1 grain of sugar? She really did not need rouge. Even the milk she drank turned into the color of roses on her lips and cheeks, as she was equipped with lustrous eyes and a mole on her cheek even when her mother brought her into the world. The name of this miracle of creation was Layla. Does not Layl mean night in Arabic? And dark as the night was the color of her hair. Whose heart would not have been filled with longing at the sight of this girl? But young Chayes felt even more. He was drowned in the ocean of love before he even knew that there was such a thing. He had already given his heart to Layla before he understood what he was giving away. And Layla? She fared no better. A fire had been lit in both, and each reflected the other. What could they have done against it? A bearer had come and filled their cups to the brim. They drank what he poured out for them. They were children and did not realize what they were drinking. No wonder they became drunk. He who is drunk for the first time becomes deeply drunk indeed, and heavily he falls who has never had a fall before. Together they had inhaled the scent of a flower, its name unknown, its magic great. As yet, no one had noticed, so they went on drinking their wine and enjoying the sweet scent. They drank by day and dreamed by night, and the more they drank, the deeper they became immersed in each other. Their eyes became blind and their ears deaf to the school and the world. They had found each other. While all their friends were toiling at their books, these two were trying other ways of learning, reading love's grammar in each other's looks. Glances to them were marks which they were earning. Their minds were freed from spelling by love's spell. They practiced writing notes full of caress. The others learned to count, while they could tell that nothing ever counts but tenderness. How happy this first flowering of love for Gijs and Layla. But can such happiness last? Was not a shadow already falling over their radiance? Even if the children did not notice it, what do they know about the ways of this world? They did not count hours or day until suddenly disaster struck. Just as Joseph came out of his pit, so the sun, a golden orange, ascends every morning from the hem of the horizon like a precious toy in the sky, yet every evening, exhausted and worn out by the day's labor, it sinks back towards the west into the deep well. So Layla also shone forth in her morning. Every day she grew more beautiful. Not only Gijs, but his companions at school became aware of it. Openly or secretly, they began to stare at her, and if they caught only a glimpse of her chin shaped like a lemon with little dimples, they felt like ripe pomegranates full of juice, ready to burst with desire. Was not Gijs bound to notice? Certainly. And for the first time, a bitter taste mingled with the sweet scent of his love. He was no longer alone with Layla. A small crack appeared in his blind happiness. He had a foreboding of what was to come, but it was too late. While the lovers had turned their back on the world, drinking the wine of oblivion and enjoying their paradise, the eyes of the world turned towards them. Did the others understand what they saw? Could they decipher the secret code of signs and glances? How could they fail? But they understood in their own petty way, driven by curiosity, spurred by jealousy and spite, and pleasure over other people's discomfort. And how easily the lovers made it for their enemies to set their traps. What? Have you not heard? They sneered. And from mouth to mouth it was whispered, from ear to ear, from tent to tent. When wagging tongues abused what was fair, their eyes and lips could now no longer shield caught by the gossip in the square, the tender secret which each glance revealed. Hard is the awakening for people so deeply intoxicated by their dreams. Now Layla and Gijs began to notice the pointing fingers, to hear the reproaches, the derision, the whispers behind their backs, to see strangers' eyes watching, spying, following. Suddenly, they realized their blindness. Why had they never noticed the hunters and their weapons? Now they tried to mend the torn veil, to protect their naked love from the world, to hide their longing for each other, to tame their glances and to seal their lips. They sought to be cautious and patient, but what use? Like the musk deer, love, betrayed by its scent, cannot hide. Like the sun, it penetrates clouds. Caution and patience are no chains for a lover already chained by 1,000-fold by the tresses of his beloved. Gijs' soul was a mirror for Layla's beauty. How could he remain silent about all he saw in it? How could he avert his glance from the fountainhead of his life? He tried, but his heart was no longer at one with his reason. If reason asked him to avoid his love, his heart fell ill with longing for her. Away from her, Chayas found no peace, yet searching her out was to imperil both. Was there a way out? The youth could not see any, and his heart suddenly lost its balance, like a beast of burden which stumbles and falls when the load on its back suddenly breaks loose. But those who never stumble nor fall looked on and said, "He is a Majnun, a mad man." Soon, everyone knew, and the more people saw and heard of him, the madder he appeared. But he did nothing to pacify those who reproached him. On the contrary, he walked among them, praising Layla's beauty like a sleepwalker recalling a dream in the middle of the day. Who would do such a thing? Disaster took its course. Too many hounds were chasing the stag, tongues hanging from their ravenous mouths, barking and growling, panting and jeering. It became too much for Layla's people. Was not the girl's honor also that of her family? More that of her whole tribe? Was it right that this mad fellow, this Chayas of the Banu Amir, should play around with her until her name became a laughingstock? From now on, Layla's parents kept their daughter at home. They guarded her carefully and saw to it that Chayas had no chance to meet her. They kept the new moon hidden from the fool, the way the pastures was now blocked for the young gazelle. What could Layla do against it? She had to hide the sadness of her heart. Only when she was alone did she drop the curtain and shed lonely tears. The separation from his beloved robbed the youth of his home, and if Layla wept secretly, he openly displayed his unhappiness for everyone to see. He appeared now here, now there. He wandered about in the small alleys between the tents and in the bazaars where the merchants and artisans have their stalls. He walked aimlessly, driven only by his aching heart, without heeding the staring eyes, tears springing under his eyelashes like wild mountain streams. All the time he sang melancholy songs such as lovers are wont to sing in their misery. When he passed by, people around him shouted, "Look! The Majnun! Majnun is coming! Majnun!" The reins had slipped from the rider's hand. His innermost being was revealed like the heart of a split fruit. He had not only lost his beloved, but also himself. Everyone saw in his face the reflection of the fire scorching his heart, saw the blood running from his wound. He was suffering because of his beloved, but she remained far away. The longer it lasted, the more Chayas became Majnun. Burning like a candle, he did not sleep at night, and while he searched for a remedy to cure soul and body, both were filled with deadly pain. Each day at dusk, the ghost of his vain hopes chased him out into the desert, barefoot and bareheaded. Then, strange things began to happen. Majnun had been separated from Layla, yet his longings made him the slave of his imprisoned mistress. A madman he became, but at the same time a poet, the harp of his love and of his pain. At night, when everyone was asleep, he secretly stole to the tent of his beloved. Sometimes 2 or 3 friends who had suffered the torments of love like him accompanied him on his wanderings, but mostly he was alone reciting his poems. Swift as the north wind he flew along, kissed Layla's threshold like a shadow, and returned before the new dawn. How hard it was to return! It seemed to take a year. On his way to her, he ran fast like water pouring through a trough. On the way back, he crawled, as if he had to make his way through 100 crevices thick with thorn bushes. If fate had allowed him happiness, he would never have returned home where now he felt a stranger. His heart suffered shipwreck, drifting helplessly in a boundless ocean. There seemed no end to the fury of the gale. He hardly listened to what people were saying. He no longer cared. Only when he heard Layla's name did he take notice. When they talked about other things, his ears and lips were sealed. He walked about like a drunkard, weeping bitterly. He lurched, he fell, and jumped to his feet again. When Layla's tribe pitched their tents in the mountainous area of Najd, only there did he want to live. Once his strength failed him, he gave a message for Layla to the east wind. These were his words. East wind, be gone early in the morning. Caress her hair and whisper in her ear. One who has sacrificed everything for you lies in the dust on his way to you. He is seeking your breath in the blowing of the wind and tells his grief to the earth. Send him a breath of air as a sign that you are thinking of him. Oh, my beloved, had I not given my soul to you, trembling with desire like the wind, it would have been better to lose it. I would not be worth the dust in which I am lying. Look, I am being consumed in the fire of my love, drowned in tears of my unhappiness. Even the sun which illumines the world is singed by the heat of my sighs. Invisible candle of my soul, do not torture the night moth fluttering around you. Your eyes bewitched mine, and sleep escapes them by day and by night. My longing for you is the consolation of my heart, its wound and its healing salve. If only you could send me the tiniest morsel of your sweet lips. The evil eye has suddenly separated you from me, my moon. My enemy has wrenched the juicy fruit from my hand and thrown me so desperately thirsty to the ground. Now he points his fingers to me as I lie dying of my wounds. Yes, I am a victim of the world's evil eye, which has stolen what was my own. Who would not be afraid of it? People try to protect their children with blue amulets. Even the sun, afraid of its darkness, wears a veil of pure sky blue. But I was not protected by amulets. No veil covered my secret, no runes offered a hiding place for my treasure, and that is why the world could rob me of it. Once more, the young day donned its morning coat woven from shimmering brocade. He adorned the ear of the sky with the precious golden ornament of the sun, and the quicksilver of the stars melted in its red flames. Majnun appeared together with his friends near the tent of his beloved. So far he had only come by night, wrapped in the cloak of darkness, but now he could bear it no longer. His patience was at an end. He had to see her, Layla, for whom his heart was crying. The closer he came to his goal, the less certain were his steps. Drunk with longing and confused by feverish hope, his lips trembled like the verses of the poem he was chanting. Suddenly, he stopped. In front of him, he saw the tent. And what else? Seldom do dreams become so real. The curtain was withdrawn, and in the entrance of the tent, unveiled in the light of day, clearly visible against the dark interior, Layla was sitting. Layla, his moon. Majnun sighed deeply. Now Layla saw him, and they recognized in the mirror of each other's face their own fear, their own pain and love. Neither stared. Only their eyes met, Their voices caressed each other, softly exchanging plaintive sighs, which they were used to confide to the wind and to the night. Layla was a lute, Majnun a viola. All the radiance of this morning was Layla, yet a candle was burning in front of her, consuming itself with desire. She was the most beautiful garden, and Majnun was a torch of longing. She planted the rose bush, he watered it with his tears. What should I say about Layla? She was a fairy, not a human being. How should I describe Majnun? He was a fairy's torch, a light from head to foot. Layla was a jasmine bush in spring, Majnun a meadow in autumn where no jasmine was growing. Layla could bewitch with one glance from beneath her dark hair. Majnun was her slave and a dervish dancing before her. Layla held in her hand the glass of wine scented with musk. Majnun had not touched the wine, yet he was drunk with its sweet smell. Only this encounter, brief and from afar, was permitted to the lovers. Then Majnun, afraid of the guards and spies, ran away, lest the wheel of fate should turn even this fleeting happiness into disaster. He escaped from Layla in order to find her. This has been the first 5 chapters of Layla and Majnun by Nizami Ganjavi. Join me next time at Scheherazade's sanctuary to reunite with our lovers and continue the telling of their tale. Until then, I'm your host, Scheherazade, wishing you the heady tidings of the jasmine that blooms under the full moon.